Hello and a warm welcome to all the guys, gals, and non-binary pals watching. This is another episode of the Wiki Weekdays podcast. I am Lucas Holland, and I'm joined, as always, by the lovely Karl Smallwood.
Hello.
So, Karl, another exciting episode. Like, back to back, we managed to have a guest. Like, we've actually wrangled some guests for once in a while, right?
Yeah, we were doing the just the let me in tech of like, let me in, get like a bit of my podcast.
Yeah. So, as always, we continue to try and, aim at hopefully getting people on, monthly, but obviously it just depends on people getting back to us and scheduling and all that good jazz. But yeah, we've got another amazing guest to have on today's podcast, and we just want to get through all the, little intro bits and little bit of housekeeping and all that. But
it is a guest you're excited to introduce, right?
Yeah, it's a guest that I'm really excited to introduce. We had Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb on the podcast, and I've personally been a big fan of Giant Bomb for a while, and then I just thought it would be a cool opportunity to support them because they recently became independent. I'm not going to get into the details, it's not my place to say, but just essentially, Giant Bomb was owned by a company. They are now owned independently by the 5 main creators on that channel, and one of those being Jeff Grubb. So I just reached out to them. I was like, hey, I'd love to just have somebody on the podcast. We can talk about something, cool and gaming related. And it was a really fun chat. And just if anyone likes the vibes of Wiki Weekends, I think it's probably something that you'd enjoy. I think that Giant Bomb's just a good place and a good community to go chill out in and, listen to a bunch of different discussions, watch some gaming stuff. Just, they have good vibes.
Yep, I'm aware of the fact that you have been following them for years, and that your recommendation does not come lightly.
No, it doesn't. So yeah, I would highly recommend their content, and there's a bunch of different stuff that you do. So depending on what you're looking for, I'm sure there's something that you would find over there to be able to, enjoy. And if you can't go over there and support giantbomb.com financially, at least go and give them a little click, right? Go give them some views and go give them some
chances
attention.
are, we're not going to be adding much to their bucket.
No,
but it's still their bucket.
They are a bigger channel than us, but I wanted to, just use it as an opportunity to reach out and collaborate because I'm a big fan.
I think do you remember those top 100 songs that music channels used to do back in the day? And they'd have artists come on and present their favourite songs. And we'll see Electric Six on one of those. And went, the next song we're picking is Electric Six's High Voltage. Because it's our song and we get paid every time it plays. It's a drop in the bucket, but it's our bucket. Similar, right? We might not be sending many people over to their content because they admittedly have a larger following than we do, but it's their bucket, they own it, and I'm sure they'll appreciate anything we can put in.
And it's interesting because we recorded with them first, and it's been, recorded in advance to then be put out a couple of weeks later or whatever.
Yes.
But since, having Jeff on this podcast, which you'll hear in a minute, I then did go over and do a Game Mess Mornings with them last week, talking about video game news. Obviously, with it being a news podcast, it's a little bit out of date at this point, but if you want to go see me and you want to, watch a Giant Bomb video and also see me on that, I guess there's that opportunity too.
If you want to see a very excited Lucas, you can go check out that video. But we do have some housekeeping, don't we, Monfrey?
We do indeed. We're making a couple of little changes, so I'm just going to kind of blitz through them as quickly as possible so we can get into the podcast. But for members of the YouTube, we are going to make a change so that people get videos a day early instead of ad-free videos, so that we can kind of clean up the homepage a little bit and stop having duplicates of every video and stuff. They won't get many views, so we're just making that little altercation. But we're gonna leave, we're gonna unlist them and leave the playlist available for all the ad-free videos we have made, but there'll just be none going forward. That's all.
Yeah, that link will be somewhere.
It will be somewhere, yes. And then in terms of the podcast, again, we just decided in terms of scheduling stuff, it's easier to keep doing them pre-recorded, so they won't be live anymore, but they'll be going live the time they would anyway, so it shouldn't really affect anyone listening or watching. It should just be kind of a similar thing, but we're just not live. And we feel like those are a couple of little changes that we'd like to make, and then that does mean that for example, Pet of the Week, you'll still have your pet featured, like now, but with them
There
being
is a pet
pre-recorded.
on screen, I imagine. We just don't know what pet it is because we're recording in advance
We just won't know
now.
what pet it is because we're recording in advance. But Pet of the Week will still be a thing. Which Wiki one this week won't, because sometimes we'll just want to get ahead and stuff, so it'll make things messy. But yeah, Pet of the Week is still going to be a thing.
Still feel free to let us know, though, right? You can still feel free to let us know which Wiki you thought won this week. We just won't be announcing it in the video itself.
Exactly, yeah. We're trying to just focus in on what is working and streamline things and just like lean into the things that are working, adjust things that aren't. But yeah, anyway, without further ado, I guess we best get onto the podcast and hand ourselves over to past Lucas and Karl with Jeff Grubb. So thank you all. So hello and thank you from Lucas and Karl in the future. I know Karl always gets that one mixed up, but we have got Jeff now with us, and it's fantastic to have you on, Jeff. Big fan myself, and I just sent over an invite. Just wanted to get somebody from Giant Bomb over here to speak about the fact that you guys managed to become independent, right?
Yeah, it was quite a thing. It was hectic. It was happened very fast. Required a lot of long days, talking to lawyers kind of nonstop. Still am talking to lawyers nonstop. But it was an incredible moment that we were able to make happen in time for PAX and get it announced. And the response has been so nice and warm and welcoming. I think everyone was kind of looking for a win. And I just feel very lucky that we were actually able to pull one out and kind of be able to lead the charge on that. And it's like, man, I wish everyone could have this feeling. But yeah, we're very happy about it.
It's rare to hear a success story on the internet.
Yeah, it's wild, and it's like, I keep thinking about it and looking around. It's I again feel lucky to be a little bit in control of my own destiny now. Where even beyond being having success, it's like being able to do it in a way where we own quite a bit of our own platform now. And so if changes happen with other platforms, we're not necessarily always at the whim of that, although we are in many ways still. But it's these companies, corporations that have invested in games media or entertainment media, they are so fickle and can turn around on a dime, and the leadership there is never permanent. It changes, and then the new one always wants to come in and put their stamp on things, and you are completely at those whims. And to kind of get unmoored from that has been really nice, and just be like, I don't know how much longer I could have kept doing this job had it not worked out exactly this way, and what are the chances of it working out this way. So yes, luck is the thing I keep coming back to.
Congratulations.
Thank
True
you.
Success story. It's always warming to hear.
Yeah, and it's now we got to get back to work, right? And keep doing it and making sure that it's fun and people want to keep watching it. But that is the fun part of the job. That's okay, that's the stuff we wanted to do anyhow. And that gets to be our focus here very soon as we get all the business stuff sorted. We got all the assets for Giant Bomb. There was no Giant Bomb business to take at this point, so we had to build our own. And we're getting near a point where that is going to make sense. But in the meantime, we're still just making the fun stuff, and I can't wait for that to be the full focus.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's the business stuff is the thing that you're not necessarily as interested in. You've been more forced your hand there. But yeah, I mean, credit to you guys for barely missing a dime. I know there was a bit of a weird period where things weren't quite sure, but then the moment you announced that you guys are the owners, it was just straight back in. Yeah, we knew. I mean, we know what we're doing when we're doing Giant Bomb. That was another benefit. It's just we know what this is and what people want it to be, and now we can do even more of that. And so that stuff just immediately made sense. That was easy. So yeah, it was very like I said, welcoming to get back on the track of we're going to keep making Giant Bomb, and people are going to be excited about it. That's been another nice thing, is people who maybe had been feeling like Giant Bomb had been a little bit tainted by years of corporate ownership. Now it's free from that, and you can tell people are just much more positive about stuff. We're doing very similar things that we were doing, but now that it's everything we do is benefiting us, or they know we'll come back around to making Giant Bomb more Giant Bomb, everyone just feels better about it entirely, and that's the benefit of being independent for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think
we can speak to that on a more minor scale, right? I've been annoyingly independent for a while. It's owning a business is tough. Mine's much smaller and had much less reach, but I can totally get it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's the way you have to do it now, because you just can't rely on any of these corporations to really be there to back you in the long run. So even if one came back to us now, there's no way we would be able to take that.
A lot of friends from my writers' days have basically just gone all over the internet and been screwed over in a variety of ways.
Yep.
Like the place I got my start.
Ways.
Yeah. The place I got my start cracked. Like that's been a nightmare behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear horror stories from out of Cracked for sure. Yeah, it's rough out there.
Yeah. But it's good to see someone landing on their feet. And Lucas, what is the topic for today?
Well, Jeff, you brought a topic that I was semi-familiar with, but obviously tried to do my best and do a bit of research in advance. And we are talking about the video game Spacewar. And yeah, it's before people go, oh no, old game I don't know about. Don't panic.
Oldest game you don't know about. Yeah,
exactly right. It's just as a way to kind of asperge people's fears. This is listed as one of the 10 most important video games in history, as supported by the Library of Congress. This is
what else is on that list? Out of curiosity.
Oh yeah, interesting. Good point.
Because usually with those lists, there's always that outlier that you don't expect.
Yeah, what do you think? It's going to be Candy Crush, right? Something like that. That would probably.
There's an argument to be made for that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
there's always an argument to be made for just the Angry
Boom
Birds.
Blocks. Boom Blocks for the Wii. That'll be the outlier.
There is an outlier in here that I'm surprised about. But
okay, I've been curious about this when you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, so it begins with Spacewar. Then we got
number
Star.
It's 10 to
chronological order. So it's chronological, not of importance necessarily. But then we've got Star Raiders, Zork, Tetris, SimCity, Super Mario Bros. 3, Civilization and Civilization 2. Cheating a bit there. Then we got Doom, the Warcraft series, and then Sensible World of Soccer.
I'm not too familiar with Sensible World of Soccer. That feels like someone at the Library of Congress is I liked it as a kid.
I play this in my lunch break every day. Yeah. Is that like a Facebook game? What is that? I have no idea.
No, it's a 1994 football video game, but I think it's a precursor to the FIFA series and things like that. But
right.
Fascinating that, I guess, because of sports games like FIFA and
one of the
Madden
biggest
and stuff,
money earners, right? FIFA was so good for a while. Everyone has their favorite FIFA.
Yeah, FIFA's still massive. Yeah, absolutely. Well, now it's EA Football Club, but yes,
it will never not be FIFA.
Right.
That's the problem.
Everybody over here still just refers to it as FIFA.
Of course, yeah. And that happens when they change the names of stadiums over here, and it's because they look at a new corporate sponsor, and it's now it's Progressive Field. It's no, I'm still calling it the old name.
You're not a fan of the Crypto.com.
Not particularly. No,
that's the best one. The Crypto.com one.
I think, is it still called that? I mean, isn't crypto? Yeah, man, that's awesome. That rules.
God, that's crypto's essentially become more defunct than the branding on that.
It must be like driving past a Blockbuster, right?
Yeah, it's a giant, massive, an 80,000 seat Blockbuster. Yeah.
I think Blockbusters should come back. They should just try and dip their toes in the world of sponsorship.
Yeah.
Get away with it.
Just be a brand. Don't do anything. Just be a brand that shows up places. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, but I mean, Jeff, obviously, we decided this subject a little bit between us, but you were the one who suggested Spacewar, so why don't you just kick things off a little bit and explain why you chose the subject?
Yeah, so I've been looking into computer history a little bit recently. It's been one of the tracks I've been on with books I've been reading or listening to more often. And Spacewar comes up all the time as a very important moment in computing and gaming. It was this nexus of all these technologies coming together. Being able to render images on the screen at this point, still very new. There's this program called Sketchpad that was made for a similar kind of computer. This Spacewar was made for the PDP-1. A massive computer by today's standards for sure. A pretty small computer at that time. I think they even call it a mini computer because it's not the size of a building or even the size of a room. It's about the size of half of a bedroom. And at this time, they're figuring out what can a computer do? And there's a lot of ideas about okay, a computer's mechanical, right? This is a machine. So straight lines, no curves. It could do some math right in the background. But when we go to render stuff online, it's it's going to be not just aliased. It's going to be huge stair steps because it could just do straight lines, or maybe it can go at an angle. Took them a second to like figure out like, wait, the computer actually can calculate everything that we need it to do stuff like curved lines and to maybe then begin rendering objects in real time. And all the people working on this stuff were mathematical geniuses, programming geniuses. And so the first game that they make is a one-on-one competitive space combat game where each person controls a little wedge and you could shoot at one another. But it doesn't stop there. They put one obstacle in the game, a black hole in the middle that has real physics that calculates simulated physics, and it constantly is pulling people towards that. And so that becomes part of the strategy of take your ship in, do a gravity assist warp around the side of the black hole, and come out the other side with a ton of speed to surprise your opponent. There's like one other mechanic where you can hit a button called hyperspace, and it like moves you to a random spot on the map. And just like looking at this is the first video game, basically. Again, there's going to be others that people will bring up for a bunch of other reasons, but this is really the first one that satisfies a lot of metrics. And already we have shooting and we have physics being simulated. And to me, it's like, so when I think about video games today, and like when someone's making a game and when they want to make a shooter or they want to make something that simulates physics, it goes all the way back to the very beginning. And it's like, this is what video games are good at. And we knew it kind of right away. As soon as we could begin rendering objects on the screen and interacting with them, immediately the people that had control of this stuff were like, we should put a black hole in there and see what that feels like. And I think that's one of the things where like when we try to figure out like what makes gaming cool now, and we have a lot of comparisons to other mediums. It's like, well, can it tell a story? Can it make you cry? And it's like, well, I've got to be real. Spacewar kind of almost makes me want to cry. The fact that it can sit like this thing on this massive old chunky computer that's not as powerful as a calculator today. And they were like, let's just see what it feels like to move a ship around a black hole. That is beautiful to me. And I think about it all the time. And it's influential in a lot of other ways. It sets off a lot of trends. But I think that's where I would start, is just it established an early vocabulary for games that we still use now.
It feels like the entertainment equivalent of when you hear the statistics about like the space race of like, they sent people to the moon using technology that couldn't outperform a Game Boy.
Oh yeah,
it's just, especially when you realize like most everything in computers is ones and zeros. I can't understand the wizardry behind how do ones and zeros do this. It's like I want to learn about CDs, and CDs are just grooves, and it's either a groove or not a groove. And if you just combine that in a billion different ways, you can make it play a song. I was like, okay, I'm going to take your word for this because this might as well be magic. I still don't understand.
I think I've looked that up 20 times in my life trying to be like, I need to figure it out this time. How does it do that? And I still haven't figured it out.
Every time. Yeah. It's like just ones and zeros. I don't understand how ones and zeros do it, but they do.
Yeah. And
like we made a rock think.
I did have a little dabble playing Spacewar today, and I was like genuinely very surprised by how well the physics of that simulation hold up, because, you know, I was there in the early aughts in like high school and stuff and playing like mini clip games that were all like the Flash games with simulated physics and stuff, and those were always my favorite ones. And like this holds up better than they do in terms of that aspect.
You know, what's the meta like? Like there's two characters, right? Is there a meta? Or is it just like Ryu and Ken?
There's definitely like a little bit of a meta in here where it's like the hyperspace thing was a big risk, but it didn't get increasingly risky at first. They actually later changed it so that if you kept using that button every time you would do it, it would be more likely that you would end up like right in the black hole or something like that. It would kill you right away.
To stop people so like Z fighting then. Like a Dragon Ball game where you can just teleport everywhere.
Exactly. Pop it all over the place for sure. Yeah. I think that what you're saying though about the physics holding up, I think it's just like that goes to, we know things that like what a game should feel like sometimes. There's like, we did have a side-scrolling platformer to a certain extent. I guess it wasn't scrolling, but we had a platformer in Pitfall, right? And Pitfall's a good game. Like it feels pretty good. They kind of got a good idea, but there's a reason when Super Mario Brothers comes along after Pitfall that people immediately are like, oh, wait, it can be like this. And it's because they dialed in the physics, the feel, the being able to run and carry your momentum into a jump, to be able to carry your momentum over a cliff so that Mario keeps running. There's a lot of games where you go off a cliff, even some Mario games, Super Mario Land for Game Boy, you run off a cliff and you just kind of go straight down. And that feels bad. It feels wrong. It doesn't feel truthful to like the experience that we want. And then you play Mario Brothers, you're like, oh, this has truth to it. And I think that again, this is a game, Spacewar, that established right away. Like, this is what people are going to want to feel when they grab the controls of something and begin to control a character. They want to have something that says, we know what it's like to move a human body around in a space. Now imagine that you're controlling a spaceship in space, and you should have some connective tissue there. And by putting truthful math into there, and physics works in this game the way you would expect it to, it's maybe more a poetic truth of like, hey, this is what you would expect to happen. You can build a connection with the player in a really strong way.
Yeah, it's not always necessarily that it has to be true to what would be real in real life, because like Mario Bros. You bring up as an example of like, you can change your momentum in the air in Mario Brothers. Like, that's not a thing we can do in real life, but it feels better and benefits the game. And it's kind of poetic that we're recording about this time, because Donkey Kong Bonanza's just come out, and you can do so much with like rolling off edges and then jumping midair, and that's obviously just not something we could possibly ever do, but it feels right for the video game.
Right, and it's like even like the turning around in midair in Super Mario Brothers, like that is like we can sort of slightly adjust our body, like a cat turns around its body in midair by like bringing one leg in, and it's like moving around. The movement changes as compared to when you're on the ground in Super Mario Brothers. So it's like it is different, but we still want to have some control, and it kind of mimics that a little bit, or kind of adapts it from what we know to be true again. But yeah, like Donkey Kong is a good example of like, now that's a game of systems. It's just all systems all the way down, and whether it's the movement system or the physics system, or like even like a little bit of a chemistry system that they built for Breath of the Wild, where it's like, here's a material, they can interact with one another, and depending on like what materials you're using and how you're interacting with them, they can have different effects. And there's quite a bit of that in Donkey Kong Bonanza, actually. I'm like gonna kind of waiting for other people to start discovering that, because I think there's going to be so much they can do with it. And again, I think that goes back to Spacewar of focus on the systems underneath what you see, and build up. Like, that is like where you get the most out of games. That's not to say you can't tell amazing stories that make people cry. You can't, obviously, video games, the real strength is a combination of all of these artistic mediums being brought together into one, and where they interact is where the magic happens. I think it really came to me when I was playing Tetris Effect. And it's like, this is just Tetris, right? It's like, no, when you have the music, when you have the visuals, when you have everything working in conjunction with one another, something beautiful happens on top of that, but it's all the systems interacting. But I think when at a foundational level, you have to build that all on top of something that's like a good system. And it doesn't have to be a physics system. But there's a reason the first game was a physics system. It's the thing that games can do that jazz can't do, that movies can't do, that books can't do. It is the defining trait of video games.
Yeah. It's like something that it's hard to explain to people who don't play games, but there is that innate understanding you have when a game feels good.
Right, feels
like,
right.
A game I just like got through playing is like Claire Obscure, and Lucas is the one who recommended it to me. And I think I played it for about an hour, and then just an hour into it, I went, okay, I get it. It's the first time I landed like 3 parries in a row, and you'd get the momentum and everything, as you mentioned, like working in tandem. I have like the haptic feedback of the PlayStation 5 controller. I've got the slowdown of the game. I've got the music kicking in time with everything else. I've got the visuals popping off. I went, yeah, I get it. I get why people want me to play this game.
I had the same thing where I got an early preview demo of that, and I played it for about 2 hours, and 30 minutes in, I'm like, oh, the people who like these kinds of games are going to fall in love with this. This is just going to be their whole thing. And maybe there's some part where it falls apart later that I'm not seeing in this preview, but based on what they're presenting here, people are going to lose their mind for this thing. And it was easy to tell pretty quickly. I had a very similar experience.
Yeah, like we recorded a podcast yesterday talking about it, and categorically both Karl and myself were like, oh, game of the year, and it's going to be tough to beat that. And, I'm excited to try out Donkey Kong Bonanza hopefully soon, and that might be a big contender, but Claire Obscure just hits so many things right, and just it feels so good in every way.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's going to be those two games kind of battling it out, maybe some other stuff, but yeah, they're both very good.
It's interesting that I guess you do kind of get that with other forms of media where you can just innately you get a gut feeling that I like or don't like this. But it's seldom so visceral as it is with a video game, where just like a poor controlling video game, just it feels bad. Like you want to put the controller down. I can't think of other forms of media where you actively want to get it away from your physical person. Say for maybe like something like that's just morally objectionable in a movie or something that's too loud.
It's a little bit like you want the game to make space for you or feel like it considers you. Because like they've built all of these either interactive toys, or I think the way I've been thinking about it recently has been like they are a band and they're all experts at playing their instrument, and they're building this world of instruments around you that you can also interact with, but you're going to be controlling an instrument as well. It's probably the character on the screen. And now you move the character around, and you want the world to sort of make it feel like we've created a space for you to do that and to feel like it works in tandem. And the controls need to be tight for that to really work. But it doesn't always have to be that way. Just be considerate. It's one of the reasons that I personally have a not antagonistic, but criticisms of Red Dead Redemption 2. I think it's a game that doesn't create a lot of space for the character, or for the player, that isn't very considered. Like, we have a way we want the game to be played, do it, and get on board with us. And some people really want that. There is, of course, space for that. I just think it makes it not necessarily a great video game. Great video games are ones that make you feel like you are part of the band playing along with masters, and makes you feel like a master yourself.
Yeah, like, I know that Karl and I sit on very opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to Red Dead 2. Like, I'm similar to yourself. I was just, this game is not, it's not letting me have fun. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Like, the gameplay was not letting me enjoy myself, whereas Karl really loves the game.
Yeah, I disagree. Yeah. First time I was like controlling a horse, and I was running across the train tracks, and the back end of my horse got clipped and flew into the upper atmosphere. I was looked at it and went, I'm not getting that back, and burst out laughing.
The moments like that always get me, for sure.
When I just saw my horse just starfishing into the air and went, I'm not getting it back. It's gone. It's like physics, right? It is a clunky game, but I'm always a fan of like how deliberately like your characters eat shit. There's something to be said about like when you jump off a roof and your character just completely face plants like face down in the dirt, just stands up and just
Wait,
I think that's like
that. I'm sorry, that was just the other side of that. It's like we talked about, like, oh, we want the controls to feel good, and then at the same time, like, I also sometimes want the controls to feel deliberately terrible, like QWOP or Baby Steps. Did you guys play the demo for Baby Steps?
I have not.
No, I have not played the demo, but I'm enjoying the trailers and looking forward to that one coming out.
So yeah, I played that, and it's they call it like streamer slop, streamer bait. Really, that's I think it's I don't think that's necessarily pejorative, but whatever. It's more than that. Like, I put it in front of my family when we were on a family vacation recently, and everyone immediately got it, thought it was hilarious. And there's something about, like, what if you try to map the controls too accurately to reality? What if you gave yourselves control over not just like how the character moves on the screen like a cursor, but what if you got them, if you had to control the muscles within their body specifically? And going that deep into the systems, also, there's something really satisfying about that. I'm like, yeah, what if I did have to have that control? Could I move this character and see what that looks like and feels like? And it's usually very funny. But then when you start to get good at it, it's like, whoa, there's like something magical happens there. I don't know what it is, but I really enjoy those kinds of games as well.
Yeah, minor example would be like this web swinging in Spider-Man 2. I remember interviewing the guy who came up with that. I think it's like maybe Joseph Friston. I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's like the guy who came up with it. And his explanation is, it's like the comparison between Pepsi and Coke, where Pepsi wins in taste tests. When people have a sip, but people don't want to drink a full glass of something so sweet. It's too sweet. Mm-hmm. The thing that satiates you in the long run is a glass of Coca-Cola. And that's what his web swinging was, where in short bursts, pressing a button as Spider-Man swings in the direction you want him to feels good, but in the long term, it's very unsatisfying. And the depth of how that system works.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, Spider-Man 2 web swinging. Talk about something that just feels true. It just feels right. God.
Everyone always talks about it, and I always remember his explanation of how it worked. And when I asked him, why don't you think it's been in later games? Because it's easy to do. He had it working on the PS1, apparently. It's playtesters just didn't like it because they had to get good at it before it felt good, and they wanted the immediacy of pressing the button and seeing Spider-Man do the thing, which is good for short term, but wasn't conducive to long-term enjoyment. I just found that interesting.
Yeah. And then I think he put it like in you had it in Spider-Man 2 and it worked. And then Spider-Man 2 did all right. It sold okay, even though it was critically acclaimed. Yeah. And so Activision was like, well, let's just go back to the other swinging. And I was like, oh my God, no, stop. You have something that's so special. Why are you doing? I remember being so frustrated at the time when other Spider-Man games didn't have that swinging.
Yeah, just going back to the swinging where Spider-Man can attach webs to clouds, apparently.
To clouds, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
The passing helicopter, the friendly helicopter.
Yeah.
It's always there. The cranes everywhere.
Yeah, I've seen like the wireframe models or whatever it is. I'm not a game developer, but like how the system is figuring out where to attach the webs onto buildings dynamically, and seeing like the system just work there and kind of shine through the back from the back end of the video game, so you could see it, is really cool.
Yeah, there's a really cool like GDC video from like back, years back now at this point, which dives into it, and it's fascinating. Yeah.
Hmm.
I do think it's very interesting as well. Like, thinking all the way back to Spacewar, of like everything in that game does just like, as we said, like feel right, and I find it fascinating as well going into some of the Wikipedia, like looking through how all of it came together, and it's like just really funny elements where, for example, the only reason why it was specifically a 1 versus 1 player game was because they pushed the system so far that the computer had nothing left to be able to compute the like opponent, so you couldn't play one player. And I think it's so fascinating to see stories of developers pushing the technology to like a literal breaking point.
It's similar to Space Invaders. The reason like the ships got faster is because that was like deliberate later on, but initially it's because as you just destroyed the other ships, there was more memory freed up, so the ships could move faster, and just they accidentally create a difficulty by just doing that. Same thing like a similar example, but not quite, like the Konami code as well. That's the invention of cheating. It's just one of the guys who was developing it just couldn't get through the game for Gradius, so just created themselves a code to give themselves like a full bevy of lives and power ups, and left it in.
And things like that just kind of happen, and it's like just people trying stuff. That's what this was. This was an academic setting. Spacewar was made at MIT, I believe.
Yes.
And then it was also the first game to get distributed, really, in any real way. It was distributed for free. They passed on the public domain code to like Stanford and all this other stuff, and they used it on their PD1s. I think it even got ported to some other early, mainframe, I guess not called mainframe computers, but these mini computers that are again actually huge. Yeah. And it was just like it was a way to like learn how these systems could work, but it was also a bunch of dudes sitting around in a room being like, hey, how can we have some fun with this? And I think an interesting thing about it to remember is there was no video game controller. It was not even really a keyboard. There certainly wasn't a mouse. There was at this point they had stuff like light pens. I talked about that Sketchpad program where you could draw lines on a screen. So they had like touch capabilities really early on in computers. But there was no like real good video game focused input because video games hadn't been invented yet. So for this game, one of the creators actually made a controller for it, and it's a very early gamepad. But again, it's like this is what makes it one of the early examples of this. Is right away they're like, we need something better than we have all these flips and switches on here to try to control this thing. It needs to be simpler than that. And so they built one. They just kind of mocked it up, plugged it into the thing, and it worked. Yeah,
it mentions in the Wikipedia that it was essentially created to deal with the fact that they needed elbow space to get to the toggles, and they were just literally competing in physical space as well.
Just trying to get control of the game. So I'm just imagining them bringing fight sticks into work the next week, right? Where they've made them themselves. Like, just guy gets his ass beat at Spacewar 5 times on the bounce, and just comes in the following week with just his Mad Cat's controller.
He's got a leverless pad,
Yeah. Comes in with like the custom anime artwork on there.
I think about the academic setting though, that this is like something that goes into like the history of computing, but also a little bit of the history of video games, where the advancements, everyone that wants to usually chalk advancements up to the private sector, companies coming in and figuring things out. And I'm not going to be like, well, that's not where it happens. Absolutely, advancements happen in the private sector. But they also happened in academic settings, and they were also happening in the public sector. And one thing that, like, when you read about the history of computing, one thing you really come away realizing is you need a healthy ecosystem of all three of those things. You need academics like trying to research stuff and getting public funding a lot of times, but or getting funding from their school with the hopes that the school can then make money on that stuff one day. And then you need the full private sector investment, whatever that looks like. It's usually a nightmare, but the advancements do happen there. And then you also want public funding, which usually comes in the form of the military and things like that, and that obviously has intersected with video games a lot. But video games probably would have taken a lot longer for them to really take off if it wasn't happening in the space where there was someone buying these $10,000 computers. Before this, the computers were $80,000, and they were you really had to share your time on them because they were so rare at that point that no one was sitting on there alone just tinkering. The PDP-1 is not necessarily the first time that happened, but it really was the first time it was happening in any great quantity, where people who knew computers could sit down with them, and at night when they weren't calculating whatever they were for the Manhattan Project, someone could sit down and be like, I'm just going to tinker and see what can happen here. And they're not going to let you do that in the private sector. They're not going to let you, or maybe not even going to let you do that in the military, which would be the public sector. So you kind of need it to happen at MIT in this space where all these people are coming together at the same time and figuring out like what they can do. And really, this is like a very early example of just rendering anything on the screen in the first place. So they were figuring out all this technology simultaneously.
Yeah. So the curiosity of a student to just dick around on this,
and not knowing what was impossible, right? They didn't know what they can do and what they couldn't do, and so they had to kind of figure it out on their own.
It's it mentions here in the Wikipedia page that like the PDP-1 was priced at $120,000 which is equivalent to like basically 10 times that amount, and it says that only 53 were ever sold, most without a monitor, and a lot of the remainder of them were in secure military locations anyway. So just talk about...
Was it $120,000 really? I thought it was way cheaper than that. Okay, man.
Apparently, yeah. Which, I was joking before we started recording to Karl, like, people sitting here complaining about, like, my Nintendo Switch 2 is too expensive. Imagine, like, oh yeah, you just have to pay $120,000 for your game console.
Well, I mean...
Try and fit this thing in your backpack.
So I said it, like, this caused a bunch of trends, the early trends. One thing I always like to say is... when we get clones of video games these days, people are like, well, that's not what video games are about. It's about innovation. It's like, no, it's about copying ideas. Right away, it was about copying ideas. Yeah. Spacewar happened. A couple of guys played it, like Bernie Stoller. No, who was the Atari guy? I'm blanking on his name. Nolan Bushnell. Yes. Is the other name in the Wikipedia here? It
will be. I'll scroll down and find it. I know it was here earlier.
So they play it, and then they're like, oh, snap. We should turn this into an attraction at event spaces, and they start making an arcade game. Someone else had the same idea at the same time. So the first two video games after the first video game were clones of the first video game away. So like that is what video games are. It is seeing an idea, saying I want to do that myself. First of all, so I can learn, and two, so I can make money. The other team that wasn't the Atari team, their solution was just basically make the 1v1 Spacewar ourselves again using a PDP-1. So at that $120,000 price tag, it probably came down a little bit in that time, but whatever, it had to be astronomically expensive to actually try to turn that into an arcade game where people are going to come in and put a quarter in. Who was ever going to make their money back? And I don't think that thing ever really made any real money when they tried to do it that way. Atari's version, which is Computer Space.
Yes, it mentions here. I have the link in front of me now.
Yeah. What's it say about Computer Space?
So it says here, around the same time, a second prototype coin-operated game based on Spacewar, titled Computer Space, was developed by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney, which will become the first commercially sold arcade video game, and the first widely available video game of any kind. You mentioned that they thought it was like a poor imitation of Spacewar and his Galaxy game, which apparently someone else made.
They had to use a really low-powered computer at the time, and they think they did some like mechanical tricks to fake some of the aspects where like something would just happen on the screen or on an overlay on the screen, and you kind of interact with that sometimes, and or they would just burn some of these systems into the hardware itself, so it wasn't too interactable, or you couldn't really input any changes to it, and it was one player, and a lot of people who had played a lot of Spacewar were like, that's not what Computer Space is. Yeah, it's the diehards are like, this isn't real, and it didn't really work. It was not a game that a lot of people fell in love with. That would happen later with like Pong and stuff for Atari for sure.
I do like the idea though that someone saw it and immediately went, we can sell this. And that's the story I've heard. It's either Pac-Man or Pong, one of the early Atari video games, when they sent it to a bar to test. Like a day later, they got an angry phone call from the bar owner. It's like, it doesn't work. What's going on? And they go in and check. The reason it doesn't work is because, the coin slot's full. People put too much money in it. And the game can't detect that there's a new credit going in because there's that much cash in there. And they went, oh, maybe we should make a company that sells these. That's probably like the diluted version. That just sounds better.
Yeah, that's generally how it goes, though. And if anyone's like curious about any of this stuff, that Atari 50 video game that came out recently is a museum for these kinds of stories. It has all the games in there, and you can play them. And it has prototypes and other versions, but it also has interviews with a lot of people, and they talk about computer space. And I think they actually tell a story once about how they were traveling down a road, or maybe they saw a Craigslist ad or something, and they're looking at a computer space cab, and they're like, I think that's one of the very first ones we ever made. And they went to go check it out, and they tracked it down, and it turned out to be like the first one that was ever made or something like that. And they found it like on the side of the road when they went to go pick it up. Like, oh man, that's pretty wild.
I do definitely have Atari 50 on my list of games to get to.
It's really special. Point. Yeah, they keep adding DLC. They added DLC about I think all the Namco games that came to Atari, which is a pretty cool thing I want to look into. Yeah.
I hope they tell the stories about how much cocaine they did in the 80s.
They do.
They're my favorite.
They 100%.
They do. Okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So
they talk about that. They talk about the hot tubs, all the parties and stuff. And
did they try and sanitize it? I love that they're being honest of like, we were making millions and millions of dollars and we were all huge nerds in LA. Why would we not just go absolutely crazy?
I think the things they sanitize probably are anything of a Me Too kind of style. They probably don't talk about if there was like harassment happening, but they do talk about how they could not bring investors near the building because they would smell all the pot smoke, and it was like that would have like ran them off. So they always had to like fake stuff or get like all the big potheads to work at night or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I believe there was a rumor trending or a joke trending maybe around the area of just if you go and stand by their vents, you could just essentially get high off the fumes coming out of the building.
You get the contact high.
I believe it.
It's just those stories like. Okay.
It's a company that encouraged, like, incentivized hitting targets by just saying, we'll throw a party if you hit your targets. No bonuses, just parties.
That happened when we discussed E.T., right? Where they got the guy who made the E.T. game, where they, like, Steven Spielberg flew him out to wine and dine, and then the company said...
Howard Scott Warshaw, I think is his name, yeah.
Yeah, like, the company was like, we'll send you on holiday for 6 months. And he's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to meet Steven Spielberg? He's like, yeah, sure.
We just did ET for our Blight Club show not too long ago, which is where we play the worst games of all time, and we have to beat them. We have to play them to completion. And that game really is as bad as people say. It's maybe it was a little bit easier if you had the instruction manual and you read it, but that was not true for any other Atari game. All other Atari games were you pick them up, you instantly understand what you need to do. ET was the one game for that system really where you're like, what does this thing do? How do I do anything? And you had to read it. And once you do, okay, you can kind of figure it out. And maybe at that point it's not as bad. But I want to like judge that game in the context in which it was presented at the time, which is this is an Atari game. You should be able to just pick up and play it. And no one read the instruction manual, so that's why it had such a bad reputation, and it deserved it.
Yeah, maybe that's why it gets listed as maybe the worst video game of all time. Combine that with all of the problems with it not selling, etc.
Oh yeah, it's just that's a perfect storm for that game. Yeah.
Well, I think we discussed it, didn't we? And it's like just the context of it nearly killed video games because stores were like, why would we sell these?
Yeah.
Why would we do this? We got so many returns. Why would we risk selling another video game?
Yeah, and it was a thing that where like the consumer in the United States didn't even really know the crash was happening, but all of these companies were not buying games anymore, and so it went from $3 billion to of money being spent on video games 1 year to $100 million. So effectively, it zeroed out. It bottomed out. And a year and a half later, Nintendo releases the NES in the United States, and it's like, oh man, what does that look like if all that money is still there and all going to Atari or maybe a couple other companies? How much does gaming change? But yeah, that moment where it's like, all these companies, the retailers and the companies are looking like, oh my God, where'd all the money go? And all the consumers are like going to the store and be like, look at all these cheap video games. I wonder why they're so cheap. Oh, who cares? I'm going to get 7 of them right now and go home. And then, a few years later, it's just off to the races, and it hasn't stopped ever since, with Nintendo kind of in the driver's seat in a lot of ways for that stuff globally because of what happened in the United States in the 80s for a brief moment.
Yes. Well, we always give big props, isn't it, to our robotic operating buddy, Rob.
Yeah,
Rob.
Yeah, credit to Rob.
I've always wanted to Rob the robot.
Yeah. I've never played with a Rob. Have you guys ever interacted with a Rob?
I want one so bad.
Me too.
Just as like for my shelf.
Yeah.
Like
it's a cool looking thing.
The one Nintendo console I have never had access to physically myself is an NES. I've only ever played it through emulators or virtual console or NES Classic and stuff. I've never been able to actually play with a proper NES.
I wonder if there's a emulated version of Rob, like someone's built or something like that, a software version of Rob. I should look into that.
I mean, I think my favorite thing about Rob was when they brought him to AGDQ to help with speedruns. That was a fantastic moment. Yep.
I think he's like the Taz mascot now, right? Like the tool assisted speedrun. Like it's everyone just points to Rob. Yeah.
I love Rob. He's great. I said they need to bring him back. I would love it if our Switch dock was Rob.
Yeah, they should or the camera, the USB camera for the Rob. Switch 2, make that design to look like Rob. I would like that. Rob's watching.
I was so disappointed to see the reviews for the Piranha Plant camera being so poor because that has some Nintendo personality to it. Right?
It's really cute. Yeah, but it's apparently pretty bad. I like the camera though for the Switch 2. I'm surprised how much the gimmicks they work really well on the Switch 2. And this week, while Donkey Kong is out, and of course that's what I'm playing, there is an update coming to Mario Party that is going to add that camera support in, and I'm kind of morosely curious to see people's faces over their characters, because that's how they do it with the camera in Nintendo games so far. Is they, for Mario Kart, they just put your face above your character, and you can kind of see the person that when you hit them with the green shell and they wipe out, their face spins around, and you can see them going, "Darn it, I can't believe that happened." And Mario Party's just nonstop getting hit by shells and bad things happen to you, and I want to see people slowly kind of get bummed out on the screen.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's going to be like back in the day with the Kinect, where my friend had one, and he was trying to show it off to us. It's like, look, we're going to play some racing game. And the gimmick, maybe it was Burnout, and the gimmick was every time you crash into someone, it takes a photo of them.
Yeah, that was
Burnout. Take a photo of them so you can see what they look like when they crashed. Yep. Every single time he did it was someone's balls. They just set their Kinect up right in between their legs. It's like, go on Rainbow Six, so you can take a picture of your own face. It's either someone's penis or Michael Jackson.
Or a giant pile of cocaine or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. You get everything. And that was... I don't think Nintendo's going to enable you to do that online with strangers.
I do want to know. I want speaking of what's the dong detection like? They must have it.
Apparently they have it. Yeah, apparently they have penis detection at Nintendo.
I did a script on it the other day about there was a Lego game where they tried to create a penis detecting software, and the game got shut down because not insignificant amount of company resources went to trying to specifically stop people making penises. And there was an edict handed down by Lego of just, we do not want to see penises in any way, shape, or form. It's like people making 3D penises, you can only see from certain angles, and the really ingenuity of people to draw a penis.
It's the human spirit personified, right? It is like you cannot stop us drawing penises, no matter what you do. Life finds a way to draw more penises.
Yeah, there's a term in game development, right, of just time to penis. How quickly can we figure out a way to just make a penis in this video game? And then you've got things like Donkey Kong Bonanza having that sculpt mode. I'm like, well, there's one thing that's going to happen.
It's time to penis is 0. Yeah.
The one that I heard about is Journey, leading people all the way to the top of the mountain with the snow and drawing a penis in the snow with your character, then jumping off. It's like, really, Journey?
Oh, I would love to have had that happen to me. There's a story that Justin McElroy, who's a games journalist or used to be, tells about. He was playing this Daffy Duck game for the DS that is Duck-a-Muck. It's based on the episode of Duck-a-Muck where the artist is trying to draw the world around Daffy Duck, and Daffy Duck's getting frustrated. It's like, make me this, and the artist does something different, and he gets mad. And there's a time where it's like, Daffy's like, hey, draw a horse. And so Justin draws a penis, and it's a pretty detailed one. And then he gets done. He hits, okay, let's go on to the next thing. And Daffy immediately jumps on the penis and puts a saddle on it and begins riding. And he goes, "My steed!" and starts riding it around. And it's just the funniest thing I can ever think of at any time. It makes me laugh still to this day.
I can see why companies don't want to do this. And it's why I'm baffled Nintendo have so heavily focused in on it, because it seems so rife for abuse. Even just like handing it to a kid. I think we're going to give a kid a camera that never turns off and let them run around with it.
I think you like, because I wonder, part of them is like realizing we're letting them destroy whatever they want. They could probably get good enough to start destroying this world so it just looks like a penis. We might as well just give it to them. Like, just go make it. Who cares? I mean, it was a little bit weird to see that, though.
I don't know how much you're more familiar with the kind of parental controls on the Switch 2, but I remember them talking about how you specifically need to like have video access as like a selection on like your friends, and you have to approve everything, right? There's a lot of controls over the fact that like, oh, you won't just be able to send a video feed to a stranger.
It's like very challenging actually to whitelist some of that stuff, because like my kids will want to play with their cousins or something like that, and even getting a lot of that stuff to work sometimes is a huge hurdle. It's actually the biggest pain is like Minecraft, where it's you have the Microsoft account and you have the Nintendo account, and there's the Nintendo Family Safety account, and then there's the Xbox Family Safety account, and then there's the Microsoft Family Safety account, separate from the Xbox Family Safety account. And you'll think you'll have everything lined up, and you'll be like, okay, I have your friends with your cousin. Let's go check your friends list, and it will still say you don't have access to this. You're not allowed to look at this. I'm like, what? Oh my god! And it takes, and it'll work for sometimes, and then something will change, it'll reset, and I'll have to start over. And I'm like, I don't remember how I got this working in the first place. In fact, I think it just happened by accident. So I'm not gonna be able to replicate this. So I'll have to start the process over. I'm glad it's there, because then I can just let them play some stuff with a little bit more peace of mind and know that there's just no way that some stranger's going to be able to start talking to them unless I give full permission. But there's got to be a better way.
As is the way with Nintendo always. Yeah.
Yep.
I appreciate that you would rather have it be difficult than not in that scenario for your kids, right? But yeah, Nintendo always feel like it's just, one step forward, two steps back. So,
it's a really traditional company, like internally, like they were. I maybe it's changed since the pandemic, but I remember hearing during the pandemic, this is a company that still sends faxes most of the time when they were trying to communicate between departments. And it's like, I know that's a kind of a traditional Japanese thing too, where it's like they have a technology that already works. There's no reason to change it. We're not going to change it. But that does mean that there's a lot of leadership at these companies that when you bring up something like, let's put this stuff in the cloud, like, one, we don't get that. Two, does that mean we're going to be hacked? And then that's kind of the way they view that stuff. And Nintendo may be the worst offender at that kind of thing, or it's the worst one that I'm familiar with.
Yeah. It's still one of the greatest hard drive headlines, I believe, where it's Nintendo doesn't understand why people are complaining about their online because no one sent them a fax about it. Just the perfect summation of just sometimes just the old people really at the top don't really get it.
Oh yeah.
And I've tried to explain like my dad's phone to him, and he just doesn't get it. I understand.
Just kick my trash can. I have the same thing where it's like, people in my life, and you're like, at a certain point, like, no point in teaching old dogs new tricks. Nintendo, it's like, you're a trick company. Like, you're supposed to be making new tricks all the time. Can you figure some of this stuff out, please?
Yeah, I find it very funny that, the biggest criticism for when the Switch 2 was fully kind of showcased is, where's the gimmicks? Where's the Nintendo weirdness? And then I think back to just maybe like the days of the late Wii era where everyone was just complaining about motion controls and Wii waggle and I just want to play a video game with a controller.
Yeah, it's and now I think I'm like at a point where I'm glad that this is just a Switch Pro. Basically, it means they're forced to focus on the games, and then the gimmicks that they have created, game chat and the camera and game share. Actually, a couple of games like they have game share. Clubhouse games was a fun thing to do, and it's like, that's not just remote play together. You're actually sharing different views, so we can do the poker game inside of Clubhouse games. That stuff's been surprisingly good. So keep making the Donkey Kong bonanzas that are like, this is just a great video game, and then there's a small little mouse mode in there. I'll try that out. Yeah. Sure, that's a good balance. That's kind of how it should be. Kind of 90% on the game side, 10% on the gimmick side. as opposed to what Nintendo's sometimes done in the past, which is maybe 90% gimmicks sometimes.
I've always been a fan of the gimmicks, though. Something we talked about in the past, Lucas, is that I really appreciate that Nintendo as a company are one of the few companies who can get away with saying that their stuff works by magic. So I think, too, it was the introduction of Amiibo, when they introduced that in a presentation, and they said, well, Mr. Miyamoto used some Nintendo magic. Or maybe it was Iwata, but they specifically say Nintendo magic, and people have bought it. And I just think if they did that in PlayStation, like, how does it work? PlayStation magic. Like, fuck off, tell us what the processing power is. And
they wouldn't be able to say that because Mark Cerny would fucking shoot him. Be like, no, it's not magic. I worked so hard to make this happen. I'll kill you.
But I've always appreciated it makes it feel like this, right? Like Spacewar. Like, you just don't understand it. So how does it work? It's magic.
Yep.
Keep that mystery alive, right? Keep a little bit of that wonder. Even as I grow into an adult, I'll still sometimes think, how the hell did they get it to work like this? It's like, well, I don't understand it and I don't want to. I like that I can just think of it as magic. There's still wonder in my life.
Exactly. I do think maybe that's why a game like the Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour is so just, I guess, tarnishing their brand when it comes to the launch of, well, we don't want just this really distilled plain thing that explains all of your technology in great detail. We just want Wii Sports. Let us just play tennis.
It's one step removed from a PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, it's very drab a lot of times. I'm like the target audience for that stuff. I want to understand these things, and yet, I don't know, I can't. It's hard for me to get through that one in particular.
I'm still currently on a almost daily mental battle of, do I want to give them money for this? Because I'm fascinated by the technologies. But I, like, on principle, I'm like, do I want to encourage them making this kind of video game?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm fascinated by the tech behind it and the stories behind how they make everything work.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know, for this industry overall, I think one of the nice things about this era of Spacewar and kind of a lot of the stuff that was happening around this time in the next 10 years, there are a lot of older guys who are part of that that want to talk about it now, and so we're getting some detailed histories about this and Atari. And I just hope that Nintendo clicks into that place here pretty soon. You know, they did the Nintendo Museum, right? But that's kind of a play. It was more like a thesis statement. It's like, this is what we think is important, and it's all about play and interactivity and the magic of that. And I think that's awesome. But I do want them to be documenting how this stuff actually came to be and got made in the first place. And so I'm reading all these books, and the fact that all of these guys that were involved in the PDP-1 and Spacewar were talking is fantastic. I hope that trend carries over and starts hitting some of the early, mid and late 80s game development scenes. It started with Atari. Atari 50 is a great example. It's honestly like maybe the best example of capturing the history of video games in a piece of media, because it does allow you to play the games and has all the interviews and kind of puts it on a beautiful timeline. I hope we get a lot more of that. And I guess, it's starting that same company. Is it not Digital Extremes? Clips. Digital Clips. Thank you. I always conflate those. They're doing Mortal Kombat next, and they're doing the same thing with that.
I've seen awesome. That. There's so much Mortal Kombat out there, and I'm glad that it has been archived. It's like, I looked at Stephen Russell, the guy who came up with like Spacewar, is still knocking about. So he's 88 years old. Like, last picture on Wikipedia is like from 2011, but you just think that like going, you can still go talk to this guy. I presume you can send him an email. The idea that you can go talk to one of the foundational people for an entire industry. Like, you can't do that for almost anything. You can't go back and like, who wrote the first book. You can't go back and
it shows how young it is too, like how young gaming is and how much it's changed so quickly. And so when we, I do my daily news show, and a lot of the conversations for the last little bit have been like, yo, where is this all headed? Where are we going with this? And this industry is making a lot of money overall, but some of the traditional spaces seem to have stagnated or leveled off. And it's like, I think we're actually still in growing pains in a lot of ways with this industry. Like things like there was one constant in video games from the beginning, from Spacewar on to today, and that is that there were no constants. Everything was always changing. The technology was changing. The best tools were always changing. Everything was not going to be the same in 2 years, very likely. And now I think we're at a point where some stuff might be getting to solidify. Unreal Engine's becoming a little bit like, that's just the tool you use to make video games now. It's not completely like that, but it's more like that than it's ever been. And I think there's some people like, okay, how do we navigate this now that it's like, okay, we can't outcompete the rest of the industry by just making something that looks better because just because we got new technology, right? It has to be, you have to have the most money and the most time to do that. And if you get into that race, that is a recipe for disaster, because if it misses, then you have the biggest miss in the history of the world, and you don't want that. So how do we sort of begin figuring out ways to separate ourselves in this space by being creative and using these tools in new ways, or giving people what they want in surprising ways? And I think that's a little bit more challenging than just being like, I discovered a whole new game mechanic. Fumito Ueda, who is the guy that made Eco, and he made what's the Shadow of the Colossus. He recently said he thinks the age of game mechanics is over. And I think what he really meant by that is like, we're not going to get a lot of games that are just feeling completely new because of some interaction they enable. We have maybe tapped out some of that stuff in the way that we tapped out stories, and like there's 26 plots, right? That old saying, oh, there's 26 plots you can use if you're telling a story, and they're all going to fit into one of those. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, maybe we're getting to that point with games just now. But we did that with storytelling hundreds of years ago. And now we're just getting to that point with games. Maybe we don't even know if that's the case. We might be doing that. Honestly, new CPU capabilities might unlock new levels of simulation that create new possibility spaces for interactions. We don't know. But if it is happening, if things are solidifying, it's just part of the growing pains. We'll get on the other side, and things will probably look very different in terms of business models. But I think that change will slow down, and that will take some time to get used to, for sure.
It's a good example, like with other media, like just there being 26 stories, and with so many ways you can throw together a chord progression. But music still gets getting made. But with video gaming, it's so condensed because technology itself grows. I forget, Moore's Law, is it? Where every 6 months computers get half the cost, twice as powerful. Mm-hmm. And I think in the technology space, things like phones, right? Just before we started recording, Lucas talked about phones used to look so different, and now they're all it's a rectangle that you take photos with. Video games feel much the same way, where there's like controllers. There's like just a set way to do this now. That's the agreed upon way to do it, and you get very little variation because there's the risk. If you take a risk, as you mentioned, is so substantial now due to the sheer cost. So I do wonder when we're going to get to that point where, I guess we do. We kind of get like, something like Claire Obscure is probably a bad example because you have a lot of investment, but you get smaller success stories, same way you get like smaller bands who can take the risk because the amount of resources that they're risking is much lower. And they can move a lot faster than the bigger companies.
And that's like the good side. If there is like a little scarier side of it, of like there are these big corporations waiting to stand between people who want to create and people who want to buy games, and being like, let's collect rent on everybody by being, Epic is that to a certain degree with Unreal Engine, but they're even more of that with, hey, make your stuff in Fortnite for us. And Roblox is certainly that. Hey, make your stuff for Roblox, and you could just start making money right away, and there's already an audience there, and we're greasing the wheels, give us most of the money, and move on. And I'm not entirely against that concept, but it does feel like that concept feels like it could be usurping the traditional video game market here pretty soon, where it's like, okay, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to come out, and this is going to be a big part of their business model, is make games inside of Grand Theft Auto 6, and we'll help you make money. Maybe, who knows how they're actually going to do that? Maybe that's something they've already done. But they bought a couple of like community tools that provide that sort of stuff, and they bought the role playing stuff, and they're going to control it all now, and they're going to find ways to monetize that. And it's like, oh, is it going to be in 20 years that there are no real new games anymore? There are 6, 7 platforms that used to be games, and now people just make stuff inside of there. That's where I get a little bit like, I don't want it to work that way. I want people to be able to come up from out of nowhere and surprise us with a game that has nothing to do with anything that's happened before. And I'll be okay if it's like the Unreal Engine. Sure, that's where I'm like, that's where the line maybe should be, because that's just like a guitar. Like, someone else using a guitar to make a new song. Yeah, that makes sense. So just go use gaming's guitar, which tends to be the Unreal Engine. Yeah. But I don't want it to be the Unreal Engine in Fortnite, and everyone's got to go in there, because that just feels very restrictive to a point where the magic and the surprise of gaming might shrivel away in some ways.
Yeah. You don't want the person playing the guitar to sign with Universal Records and be like locked into like a 6-game contract. We say or on YouTube and Spotify.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Or everyone has to write music for like a handful of bands is what it's starting to feel like. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Jeff, you mentioned other games, but you're forgetting about Mind's Eye, where all future video games are going to be made.
That's where it's really going to happen.
I can't even remember the name of like the game that was
Everywhere or Everything.
Yeah, something along that lines.
Yeah,
they just pretend like we never mentioned that one.
Yep, that was going to be their user-generated content tool that they were going to launch, and then they put that aside to launch Mind's Eye, and then Mind's Eye is going to get everywhere or whatever later, or maybe it already has it. Yeah, weird game.
Yeah, a very, very odd occurrence. So maybe just a con man spinning his wheels and hoping that he can figure out who we'll find out.
Yep.
That is an interesting point, though. Like the idea of like games will become like breeding grounds for new content. So I think something like Grand Theft Auto. I mentioned this once to you, Lucas, of a game that I would love to see made, existing Grand Theft Auto, but it's like an organic thing that arose from the free roam, which is like a Cannonball Run, where it just starts at a point on the map and run all the way across, and you can get in any vehicle, any weapon. That'd be a fun game. It would be impossible to make that game, because for that game to be as interesting as it is in Grand Theft Auto, they need to make an entire city, they need to create the systems that allow that city to feel alive, which would be completely impossible and cost prohibitive.
All you need to do is make a Grand Theft Auto game first.
Yeah, but that game existing in Grand Theft Auto would be fun, but then the issue of it now, it's reliant on Grand Theft Auto to exist.
I mean, but there's mods have been around for forever, and I think that's something that sounds like a mod to me, or just something that people do, right? A community-driven game within a game, where that stuff rules. I love that stuff, and I want a ton more of that. I think it's just like the step that I'm worried about is, these big companies becoming rentiers and just like standing in the way to collect most of the money of work being done within their game, because they're like, hey, we established a platform. And I get it. Sure. Yeah. That sounds like a recipe for poisoning some of the dynamism that has been the hallmark of video games since Spacewar.
Yeah. Just a commodification of it all, where, Grand Theft Auto is another good example where just role-play servers happened pretty naturally through Grand Theft Auto 5, and then I believe they just scooped up a lot of the people behind that.
They bought the actual thing, though, the entire role-play tool. They bought it, and it's going to be featured in Grand Theft Auto 6 for sure. And maybe not right away, but they will incorporate it, and it'll be turned into a merchant platform where they can sell stuff to people.
Some more shortcuts.
Yeah, for sure. Print money, even more money, I guess, this time.
Yeah. It is interesting though. Like, and it all started with Spacewar.
Yeah, it got us here. It got us Donkey Kong Bonanza. So I'm okay with Spacewar.
Like, I do wonder what the creators think that they're still around. Reminds me of like the Wright brothers. One of those was still around when they landed on the moon. What must that be like?
Very similar. Yep.
To witness, like, you see two lines on a screen moving around, and then you can go watch something like The Last of Us 2.
Yeah. And one tidbit that I did find amusing in the Wikipedia was that Russell, the person who initially came up with the idea, was going around to other people in his university, asking them to create the game he came up with instead of programming it himself. And he basically came up with some excuses, apparently. It says one was the lack of a trigonometric function routine needed to calculate the trajectories of the spacecraft, which then just prompted somebody to call DEC, who informed they had written the routine already. So he drove over there, picked up a tape containing the code, slammed it down in front of Russell, and just said, "What's your excuse now?" And I love that, of just his friend just forcing him into it. That's fascinating.
And it's incredible. Like, they just took the real math. They just took the real trigonometric math. And it's like, I wonder what like Isaac Newton would have thought of that when he went away to go create trigonometry in a couple of years. And he comes back and he's like, I've invented trigonometry, and seen it being used to create this spaceship on a screen hundreds of years later. It's all connected, and that's, I think, the video games are a symphony of math, and Spacewar kind of establishing that right away. It's always going to have a real special place in my heart. It's also, one last thing, if go look it up. At least there's a web version of it that just emulates the PDP-1. do that because it does occasionally show up in media. Whenever like media is trying to have like a retro futuristic look, and they want to have a video game kind of in the background, it's like, oh, there's video games in this universe as well. I think it was like in The Mandalorian, in one of the scenes where there was a bunch of like space pirates in one of their bars, and they had a big table that looked kind of like the chess table from the Falcon. And the big table on it had a screen, and on there was a Spacewar, and it was pretty cool to see that. So and that it happens quite frequently where it pops up in media.
Yeah, it's got big like retro futurism aesthetic, even though it's like reality for us. We're like very alien, where you look at it, it's like lots of physical toggles, a lot of tactile feedback, a lot of like green dots on screens moving around that you can't quite explain.
Right, because I think it's using an oscilloscope, right? No, it is using a CRT, or maybe that's the same thing.
The oscilloscope one was Tennis for Two.
Yes, that's right. Tennis for Two, which is one of the other ones that is considered maybe one of the first video games ever. Yeah.
I will say Spacewar has the better name. They put the exclamation point in there because they knew it was exciting.
That's right. It is Spacewar. Yeah. It's fun.
Great. Maybe not enough video games have exclamation points at the time.
You need to earn an exclamation point, Lucas.
Well,
you can't just put an exclamation point, and if you want people to say it and be excited, it needs to be a good game.
Do you think Mike Tyson's Punch Out with 2 exclamation points was overcompensating?
I'm not going to argue with Mike Tyson.
that's
I
always
always
a good
think
choice.
it's that interview where someone tells him, like, Mike, you don't need to swear. And he goes, what the fuck are you going to do about it? And you think, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You just look him dead in the eyes as what are you going to do about it?
Oh, that rules, actually.
Yeah. I think Punch Out has earned as many exclamation points as it
There's little one too, right? Little Mac, look at him go, Mr. Dream.
Yeah,
give him 2 of these.
Yep.
That is one of the games that like stands the test of time the best, I think. Yeah.
Oh, the most timeless NES game is Punch Out for sure. Yeah. Honestly, it's like a FromSoft game. It is a bunch of boss encounters with patterns, and it's a joy to learn those patterns. And Mike Tyson or Mr. Dream in the later version, when they got rid of Mike Tyson in the game, that is one of the hardest FromSoft bosses you will ever face, for sure.
I will say as well, like Little Mac might have the biggest balls of any game's protagonist, because if I just picture in my head, if it was a real boxer, a 5 foot tall boxer walking to the middle of the ring and refusing to move. Yeah, just standing there and just dodging everything.
Toe to toe with Bald Bull as he charges on you. Yeah. That's good stuff.
No, I do remember listening to you and Dan talk about learning the speed run for Punch Out and how difficult the timing on everything is, but the fact that you can just learn it within an inch of its life.
People play blindfolded, don't they? They've learned it to the point they can play it blindfolded.
Yes, because I mean it's almost a rhythm game. There's so many audio cues in the game that you really should be using. Because again, it's like that's games. So you bring the visuals, the controls, the audio, and they all intersect, and that's where the magic happens. Punch Out's an example of that. But yeah, some of those really good speedrunners can play it blindfolded, and that's incredible to watch for sure. But like Tyson, getting a Tyson round 1 KO, the timing on that is so extremely challenging. That's something I'm like when I was doing I would have to dedicate I think maybe a year of my life to being able to learn that before I could do that. Being able to beat every boxer on the first try, that's to be able to have a single segment speed run in that game. It's what I was able to do. That was impressive enough, and that got me in the top 100 for Mike Tyson's Punch Outs on speedrun.com. But there's a reason that there's a logger jam in that top 25, because getting a round 1 Mike Tyson is so difficult.
And it's also a little bit reliant on luck as well, right? Depending on the pattern that you get.
Yeah, that's always going to be in there, the RNG for sure. But yeah, being able to it's like the special timing, and you really just got to feel it out, because there is no cue for this thing. Nintendo was not people are gonna be able to beat this boss in the first try or in the first round. So yeah, it's very, very difficult.
Also, it's realistic though. Try and knock Mike Tyson his prime out in the first round.
He hits you twice and you're done. Yeah,
that's a dude who's one of my favorite quotes about boxing. It's everyone has a plan until I punch him in the face, and he's got a point. Everyone had a plan until Mike Tyson punched them right in the face. That's
a really good quote.
Yeah. Some of the best quotes, I think, in sports history have come out of boxing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of big personalities in boxing. But it does kind of remind me of a question that Karl and I have posed in the past about video games in general, of just if just on gut reaction, Jeff, I asked you to name like what is the best, what is the most perfect video game of all time, what would you say?
Yeah. Okay. Gut reaction. The most perfect video game of all time. I mean, the game that like comes in. Well, it's probably for me Metroid Prime, because it feels good to play. It has a really good loop of finding a new area, getting your ass beat by it, finding the thing that helps make that area make sense. But as you are also doing that, as you find that thing, you're also learning the area and becoming more competent at it in general. And then you can apply that once you also have the ability. And then the ability unlocks how to get into new areas. It also probably unlocks a way to take on a boss. And then that loop begins anew. And now it's even more challenging because you're deeper into the game. And then, that's Metroidvania in a nutshell. And then to take that and apply it to 3D and make it feel like it is completely atmospheric and really just kind of takes over your screen and makes you feel like you're there. It just had it all going for it. I remember the quote for that game from a reviewer, Mark McDonald at the time, is, "This is the best game from 5 years in the future." And I mean, that was definitely true. And then it still is, in many ways, it's like the best game from like 25 years in the future. There are still many games that don't do things as well as Metroid Prime does.
That's interesting. Like, I think both Karl and I pretty much dead on agreed without even thinking about it of just saying Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris is like the mathematically the most pure game for sure.
That was our argument of if you distill a video game down into what it is, it's Tetris.
Yeah,
like the idea of like infinite replayability, challenge, and like mechanical control. With almost like
you can remix it a million times. Yeah, it just can be remade over and over again because the mechanics don't need to change all that much. Even though they have changed a lot over the years, the very minutia, the fundamentals have all been the same.
I'm still waiting for this to put a gun in it. I want Tetris with a gun.
But it's interesting, right, that we got extra things like in Tetris Forever. I found out there's a bunch of Tetris sequels that kind of tried to add so many new things to Tetris, and then ultimately we just decided maybe the best Tetris game is to just put Tetris to a good soundtrack and cool visuals.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, make it an experience.
Yeah. Did they ever introduce a new shape in Tetris?
I bet they have, but I don't know. Did Tetris 2 have some new bullshit in there?
Yeah.
That's the thing. If they did, it didn't stay around. They just went back to formula.
Well, no, there is a Tetris 2. It's like Tetronymos or something. The guy who made Tetrominoes, which is triangles, which I thought feels like a step back because that's one less side. Surely you should have done it with like pentagons.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, like or hexagons, honeycombs.
That should have been like the gimmick, right? Each game gets a new side to the shape until like Tetris 100 is the circle.
I definitely like the Tetrises that are like analog Tetris, where it's like the pieces go in, but they can like tip over, and you still got to try to get them to like line up and stuff.
Physics simulation ones,
anxiety simulators, yeah.
Yeah, a good one is Tetris, Puyo Puyo Tetris, where you can play Puyo Puyo, which is Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, a bunch of other games
whips ass
that are like that. Yeah, it was fantastic. And Tetris at the same time, and like you could play an opponent, and they could be playing Puyo Puyo, and you're playing Tetris, or combines Puyo Puyo and Tetris into the same play field, and that works surprisingly well. It's actually a really fun time.
I always thought it should be a gimmick for other games. It's like chess boxing or something, right? Where you just combine two sports, but if you're better at chess than you are at boxing, you can beat someone who's better at boxing than they are at chess.
There was kind of a recent viral question going around of, could Joey Chestnut eat a hot dog and run 100 meters faster than Usain Bolt could eat a hot dog and run 100 meters?
Oh, yeah, probably. I don't know.
How long does Joey Chestnut take to eat a hot dog? Only a couple of seconds, right?
Yeah. Right, so you add that to his 100-meter time, which is probably like 20 seconds, 18 seconds or something like that?
Probably around there, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's like,
because I think the average person, how long does it take the average person if they're trying to eat a hot dog as fast as they can? Probably still like 10 seconds, right? At least.
I don't think people would be willing to do the water tech. That's the thing when I see the hot dog eating competitions, dipping the bun in water. And it's like, I don't want soggy bread.
Yep.
It feels like it sounds like a sensory nightmare.
Usain Bolt's too good for that. He doesn't deserve that. So yeah, he would eat it like a gentleman, I think.
Yeah, he'd have a chili dog.
Yeah, he'd really go to town on it.
Yeah, so broke his world record. one of my favourite quotes from a sportsman to speak about it. It's like, what did you do on the morning you broke your world record? It's like, well, I woke up, had some chicken nuggets, went back to sleep for an hour, woke up, had some more chicken nuggets, had another nap, had some more chicken nuggets, then went out and broke 2 world records.
That's the way to do it.
That's living right there.
Yeah, it's like Bo Beeman, I think it is. He just like jumped over the long jump, like he went half a metre over the world record. So what did you do yesterday to prepare? I had sex with my girlfriend and 3 shots of tequila.
I saw that. That was great.
I think it's Bo Beeman. I forget how to pronounce his name. So I wrote a script about it, so I've written it down. We'll not said it aloud. But either way, yes. Some great quotes come out of sports people, as Lucas said.
Oh, yeah.
I love the fact that Usain Bolt, like, all he wants to do is basically eat chicken nuggets and play football, but they'll never allow him, when he was training at least and competing, to play football because there's a danger of him getting his leg broken or something. Of course,
yeah.
I also respect the fact that why'd you do the 100 meters? I'm too lazy to do the 400 meters.
Yep,
it's quicker. I can be done quicker. I can be done in 10 seconds.
Get back to my nuggies. Yeah.
I don't want to run the 800 meters. It takes more prep.
I was thinking, you still get the same accolade. You just run a quarter of the distance.
Exactly.
Oh God, yeah. Well, yeah, I think maybe that's a fun place to end it there. And
leave everyone to contemplate.
Yeah.
Just think about that. Yeah.
Usain Bolt.
How do we end a conversation about Spacewar? Just talking about Usain Bolt, of course.
Just, what's the greatest thing you've ever done after eating chicken nuggets? Think about that. Call back in.
The answer probably is that eat more chicken nuggets.
Eat more, that's a great thing to do.
After eating 20 chicken nuggets, you walk right back up to the counter on another 20.
Hell yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on. And just a reminder that, hey, go and check out Giant Bomb. And of course, if you like the vibes over there, I personally, watch a lot of Giant Bomb. I think people who probably enjoy our vibes, I would suggest probably enjoy Giant Bomb's vibes and enjoy video games. Go check it out. Go give them your love and support.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on, guys. It was really, really great.
It's very much appreciated, and I can confirm Lucas listens to a lot of your podcasts. Like whenever he stays at my house, because he listens to podcasts while asleep, I can hear him listening to them in the other room.
Hell yeah! Okay. I'm gonna start sneaking some messages into you, whispering goodnight to you. So look out.
Like Lucas is on that sleep tech. He's one of those the Spotify warriors who's got like 20,000 minutes of listen time because it's just on constantly.
Do you have to have special earphones to lay down or whatever? Did you use earbuds or whatever?
Phone out all the time.
Yeah,
I can confirm.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay, great. So now I'll include some messages to anyone that might be around you as well. There we go.
Yeah, just I am that person who's like, I'm going to sit down and play a video game. Best prep my podcast list for the day then, right?
Yep.
Just thank you so much once again, Jeff, for your time. And it's been
thanks, guys.
A fantastic discussion. And as I said earlier, it's really fun to just have a different person on and get a different perspective and pick a cool subject.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, I hope everyone just, gives us a like and all that jazz if you've enjoyed the discussion, but have a lovely day. Wow, Karl. That was a really great video that we both just watched.
It was indeed, yes. I greatly enjoyed our discussion of Topic.
I love Topic.
I do, yes. The stuff we talked about while discussing Topic was very interesting, and I hope the audience found it interesting too.
You're one sexy man. Fill up, J. Fry.
And who else we have to show love to, Karl? That would be, of course, the people on our shout-out tier over on our Patreon.
We certainly do, Lucas, and if anyone would like to join our Patreon to get a shout-out at the end of the videos, they can do so by following the links found below. As a reminder, we have a standing offer, a challenge, if you will, to our audience to try and come up with a name to shout out that is difficult for us to pronounce or just embarrasses us with our lack of knowledge, as people did last month with the reference to the Transformers movie we didn't get.
Yeah, that was a rough one. People certainly let us know about that, but hopefully maybe we do a little bit better this time with knowing what all the references are.
Ba weep grana weep nitty bun.
Ba weep grana weep nitty bun.
Ba weep grana weep nitty bun.
Well, I certainly get the reference in the first person we have to shout out. So the first person we have to give a shout out to is Bee of Awesome. Specifically, their name reads, Bee of Awesome do a fusion dance to make Karl or Carcass. P.S. Wish me luck with the calves this month. And Lucas, are you feeling a fusion dance?
I mean, yeah, sure, let's go.
Okay, so do you remember the fusion dance?
I do, because you got to kind of go that way, and then that way.
You go that way, and then it's you want to do so
Fusion.
Huh!
There we go. We did our best. The Discord
also,
fusion.
so we'd have to get really far back as well to make sure we can fit our arms on screen. Because I feel like with our height difference, if we try to do a fusion dance, we would do the thing where your fingers don't quite connect, and we'd end up creating like a really skinny one or a really fat one.
But then the next person we have to shout out is Dan Daly. So thank you so much, Dan Daly.
And I am a big fan of the alliteration. The more alliteration, the better, in my opinion, which a couple of our Patreon supporters have taken to heart by turning their name into a tongue twister.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
But there's no tongue twister here, Lucas, with Judge Dredd. Simply Judge Dredd. And I just want to give one more shout out, because every time I point out that Judge Dredd is supposed to be like satire, some people don't get it. And it's like, do you really not get that it's supposed to be satire when Judge Dredd uses white phosphorus indoors?
Shh, Karl. That's just badass, right? That's just cool.
It's like, well, I didn't realise Judge Dredd is a commentary on the over-militarisation of the police. White phosphorus grenades authorised for use indoors, next to people's houses.
Oh. That would lead to, Karl, people kicking the bucket.
It would indeed.
That's how we thank the next person who supports us. Kicking bucket with a little bucket emoji afterwards.
I love as well, like, again, at some point, we're going to get people just submitting hieroglyphics.
We have to, yeah.
Like, people are going to be submitting hieroglyphics or just, like, Sanskrit. Or just like, okay, I translated the sound that an owl made. There you go, done.
Like,
figure that out.
What happens when you put Wingdings into Patreon names, right?
Oh god, I don't want to find out. I don't want to find out what happens when you try and get Microsoft Sam to say Wingdings.
Put out an APB on a Eustace R. Dewo. Better start with Greektown.
Right. And the next person we have to shout out is Lucille DeSteele. And thank you to Lucille DeSteele for letting me put in more clips of one of my favourite film, Real Steel.
Please do something!
Not yet!
That's right, Charlie, not yet!
I don't care how limp the excuse is. If there's an opportunity to put a clip of Real Steel into a video, I'm putting a clip of Real Steel into that video. Specifically my favourite clip, where right at the end of the film, Hugh Jackman, who's in control of the robot, just go with it, he's fighting like an 85-ton mega super billion-dollar robot, and he just goes... he just gives him like, I'm not fucking doing I didn't hear no bell.
I gotta tell you folks, the champ looks tired. This robot seems to be running on empty. I don't believe it. Adam is taunting Zeus.
Mr. Turbo!
He's actually asking for more.
And Karl, if we're going to use this as an excuse to throw in some like fun clips from comfort movies, then I have to thank Michael Tatum for supporting us, so I can throw in a clip of one of my favourite mics, and that is Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc.
Oh, well, hello there. What's your name?
Michael Tatum.
Is it ever confirmed that his full name is Michael Wazowski, or is it just Mike?
I don't know about the Michael. It's definitely Mike Wazowski. I don't know whether it's Michael Wazowski.
Because I know, like, Sully is James P. Sullivan, right? Like, he has, like, a full proper name. I'll double check. And I'll put, like, a picture on screen to confirm whether or not... Is he Michael Wazowski, or is it Mike?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you, right? When I found out your name isn't Lucas.
Shush, that doesn't need to go in. It's fine.
The thing that Joel is that's law. That's deep law. So wait, what? Lucas's name isn't Lucas? What the fuck is it?
Shh. Cut the clip. Cut the clip.
Shh. Don't tell people his secret real name. So we move on now to, speaking of secret real name, Rosalindus Memphis. And I did try last time we shouted out Rosalindus Memphis, who is a returning supporter. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. A clip from the song Walking in Memphis, because I like that song, and it's the only song I could think of with the word Memphis in it. I put in 1 second of that piano intro, instantly copyright struck. Keep in mind as well that this shout out goes at the end of the video.
Yeah.
So at the end of a 50-minute long video, whoever owns the rights to that song, Mark Cohen, I think it is, his music label must have seen like this video. Oh, it's a 55-minute long video. They use 1 second of his song.
We own that shit.
We can claim all that money. It's like, fuck you.
I'm going to make things a little bit more difficult for you then, Karl, because I'm going to say, thank you to the next person who is on our chart here, of course, Split Screen. And I was going to mention, as you mentioned music, just putting in like some Starscream music from Transformers Devastation.
Prepare to be lost in space, Autobot!
Oh, you can get away with that. Video game music you always get away with.
Oh, okay.
So I'll definitely put the clip in of Starscream's theme song from Transformers Devastation. That game whips ass. And you know what? Whoever wrote that song won't send us a copyright strike because they want it to be shared. They know how rad it is. Like, you know what, Karl? You put that clip of Starscream's theme in. It's awesome. More people need to hear.
Hopefully a Transformers clip will make up for our like devastating Transformers miss last month.
And I will certainly put in the clip of Starscream flying into frame as like Butt Rock starts playing in the background in the middle of space, where he just screams like, "Prepare to be lost in space, Autobots!" My favourite quote from Starscream is in like the challenge mode, where one of the challenges is fight Starscream and Thundercracker and like 15 other fucking jets at once. And it's the only time in the game Starscream ever says the line, "Death from above." But he says it so quick because he's flying as he says it. He's like, "Death from above!" and just flies it.
Destruction from above!
And as mentioned earlier, there's a gauntlet being thrown down for our audience on Patreon to challenge us with tongue twisters. Someone's taken that gauntlet, dipped it in shit and slapped me across the face with it. So their name is the Boledos Bajando Baja Blast Buffing Bacas de Caca de Buffalo Bombonado Bolodeses Bucanada Ebaca Bailando Con Barbosa. And I will say, I'm a fan of tongue twisters. I'm not a fan of tongue twisters in languages I don't speak. I like my favourite poem. Like Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear, Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair, so Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't Fuzzy Wuzzy.
And in that
So I'm good at tongue twisters, just not ones in languages I don't speak.
I was giggling because Karl has clearly caught him fumbling a tongue twister out.
That's getting cut as well, fuck it.
Destruction from above!
And then I guess one name to challenge me to shout out is Tiniqui Ochata Octiclane Tomi. And you always correct me on this one. Is it Nahuatl, the language? Yes?
Nahuatl, I believe, yes. Like
getting there.
Mexicano, I believe.
I'm getting there
Again, we
with
don't
that
speak
one.
the language, so we appreciate people trying to challenge us on our pronunciation, but for a tongue twister, give me a tongue twister in English. And speaking of little, the final person we have to shout out is Ghost Emoji, Little Ghost Emoji. And Lucas, who's your favourite little ghost? Is it Casper? It's got to be Casper.
I mean, the moment you said Little Ghost, the first thing that came to my brain was Casper. So, if not my favourite, it's at least word association, right?
Yeah, like Casper, like the friendly little ghost. Should we do a video about Casper at some point? I'd like to rewatch that movie to see if it's held up.
Casper, the friendly ghost, the friendliest ghost you know.
To be fair, I would actually low-key kind of love a reboot of Casper the asshole ghost with a gun.
Oh, dear. But yeah, I guess thank you all once again for a new month of more support from all you lovely folks. And yeah, it's just always appreciated. Thank you so much.
Support is never expected, but always appreciated. Thank you. Have a great time.
Yeah.